In the first episode of Second Sight, the Shawshank Redemption asked, "Who are you beyond your circumstances?" Marnie and the Silence of the Lambs asked, "Who are you beyond your past?" The Truman Show asked, "Who are you beyond what others expect you to be?" And Ikaru asked, "What will you do with the life that is finally yours?" Watanabe created a park. He left behind something we could see. But what about the contributions that leave no monument? The kindness nobody records? The reassurance offered at the right moment? The lives that became different simply because we were there? That is why It Is a Wonderful Life must be the fifth film in this journey. Because after asking what we will do with our lives, we must also ask, do we ever fully understand what our life has already done? It is Christmas in Bedford Falls, and perhaps that matters. Festivals have always seemed to me like seasons of hope. Munshi Premchand, in the opening of Eidgah, describes an Eid morning when the trees appear greener, the fields glow in the early sunlight, and even the sun seems to extend its warmth and affection to the world. But on this Christmas Eve, hope appears to have deserted George Bailey. Most people remember It's a Wonderful Life as a Christmas fantasy about a guardian angel. I remember something else. I remember watching a good man arrive at the conclusion that his life has amounted to nothing. George once dreamed of traveling the world. He wanted to build things, he wanted to escape Bedford Falls and live a life large enough to match his imagination. But every time he prepares to leave, someone needs him. His father dies, the family business needs savings. A financial crisis threatens the town, and each time George postpones his dream to protect someone else's. Years pass, his friends travel, his brother becomes successful, other people appear to move forward. George remains where he began. Then on Christmas Eve, money from family business goes missing. George faces financial ruin, disgrace, and possibly prison. Standing at the edge of despair, he begins to measure his life. The dreams he achieved, very few. The places he visited, almost none. The money he accumulated, not enough to even save him. George begins to believe that everyone might have been better off if he had never been born. That is when Clarence, his guardian angel, shows George the world without him, and Bedford Falls disappears. His brother died as a child because George was not there to save him. The pharmacist, Mr. Gover, destroyed his life because George was not there to prevent one terrible mistake. Families whom George helped to own homes remain trapped in poverty and dependence. Bedford Fall becomes Pottersville, a town shaped by the greed rather than community. Nothing George did had appeared heroic at the time. One rescue, one warning, one loan, one reassuring response when it mattered, but remove those small acts, and an entire community begins to collapse. George had been measuring his life by the dreams he could not fulfill. Clarence shows him lives that could have not flourished without him. And that left me wondering how many of us are using the wrong barometer to measure success. We live in complex times. The popular image of success is often a grand illusion constructed to sell us still greater illusions, titles, wealth, visibility, recognition, a life that appears impressive from the outside. And when we compare our unfinished dreams with someone else's visible achievements, we may conclude, as George does, that our life has somehow fallen behind. But It's a Wonderful Life offers another measure, not merely what did I achieve, but what became possible for others because I was here. George's life is not wonderful because every dream came true. Many of his dreams did not. His life is wonderful because goodness practice repeatedly created consequences he could not see. A spontaneous and reassuring response builds trust. Repeated over time, it builds relationships. Repeated across relationships, it builds a community. This is how goodness becomes more than a private virtue. It becomes a social architecture. And then something beautiful happens. The people George once helped return to help him. The community he had held quietly together now holds him. Perhaps this is what Vasudeva Kudumbakam, the world is one family, truly asks us to imagine that another person's difficulty belongs in some measure to all of us. Ikiru asked whether something would be different because we were here. It Is a Wonderful Life takes that question forward. It reminds us that something may already be different, even if we cannot see it. Perhaps the value of life cannot be measured only by looking at the person who lived it. Sometimes we must also imagine what would have been missing if that person had never been there. Before we leave, three questions worth living with. Question one: am I measuring my life only by the dreams I have achieved and overlooking the lives I have touched? Question two: who once responded to me at the right moment and quietly changed what happened next? Question three: whose life might become a little more hopeful today simply because I choose to respond? There are no perfect answers, only honest ones. Until next week, keep watching, keep wondering, and remember, Great movies reveal themselves slowly,